There is a difference between a seal and a mark. Grace and peace, everybody. Welcome to Sabbath School Study Group. This is part number 3 of this 5-part series. We are examining through the Word of God the foundation of God's government. And the foundation of his government is his law, because his law is his character. So now we get to a counterpoint, where in the previous study, we talked about the seal of God, and now we're looking at the mark of the beast. There's a fundamental difference to how a seal and a mark are applied. But before we get into that, I want to thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you hitting that thumbs up so that other folks can find this video to be encouraged, and visit us online at changeministry.org. By the way, we'd love to come and share at your school and your church. And if you'd like to get in contact with us, click this link right here below the video or even down below in the description. And let's get into the difference. The difference between a seal and a mark. When we think of a seal, we want to think of some kind of wrapping around or some kind of application for the purpose of preservation. And in order to do that, there's a whole different psychology that comes into place. Remember, the Sabbath is the reflection of God being the maker, but God obviously wants to seal us by literally making us over. And it's why we find in Revelation chapter 7 that the angel is going throughout the earth, placing upon the people of God his seal. That's not what happens with a mark. With the mark, it's a whole different psychology. So it's a whole different approach. It's a whole different mindset, and it's a whole different process. So it's in Revelation chapter 14, verse 9 and 11 that we find the mark of the beast. It's there that says, the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast in his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever. And they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Not a lot of positive imagery there, but it is clear. And if we walk that verse backwards, it says that the mark is indicative of those who acknowledge or worship the image that actually belongs to the beast. So it stands on the total opposite side of the seal of God. And we see that seal being reflected in the keeping of God's biblical seventh-day Sabbath, as opposed to the beast who has an image, and those who worship that beast and that image receive a mark. Now, notice the negative imagery, right? And the violence that seems to take place. And not just the violence, but the whole idea of force. And because of it, there's this randomness, there's this aggression that leads to a scratch as opposed to a seal. Because when the beast is spoken of and you see its aggression, in verse 12, it says, therefore rejoice ye heavens and ye that dwell into them. No, dwell into them. In Revelation chapter 12, 12 to 17, therefore rejoice ye heavens and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil, there it is, the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. The devil's in a rush. And the devil then is termed in verse 17 as the dragon, which was wroth with the woman, God's church, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep, amazingly, the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. So now the beast, in its violence, in its haste, and everybody knows that haste makes waste. And when you're rushing, you never do anything as well as if you take your time. But the reason why the dragon is rushing, because he knows he doesn't have a lot of time. So like a wild animal, he goes around scratching, swinging, trying to swipe, to scratch and claw, to put his mark on everyone who makes the decision to live alternative or live outside of God's commandments. Not only in Revelation 12, but even down in Revelation 13, here, more aggressive, more violent imagery, but trying to get us to see the character of the dragon. It was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. The scratching, the clawing, the attempt to grab us even in spite of our will. And not only if the devil's willing to grab us despite our will, that's why it should be no surprise that he's trying to deceive us. because the deceiver has no care about your whereabouts. They don't care about scruples. It's all about what can they get. And the beast power that decides to serve the dragon has the same spirit. It's a lust for power. And people are just the pawn in that pursuit. They're just the means to fulfill that lust. And it's why it's totally outside of God's operation to operate even in all power, even though he's sovereign, without choice. That's one of the signs that we know that we're dealing with God as opposed to the dragon, or even those who claim to be of God, but who actually have the hearts of dragon. They try to bypass the mind. They try to deceive. And when it comes down to the will, they will try to subdue it for the sake of what they want. This is a key differential between a seal and a mark. But I'm so glad that it says it clear there in Revelation. If you read on, where even though the dragon goes to make war against the woman and the remnant of her seed, he loses. And we overcome because we've received the seal of God. It's that simple.